Prince Harry walked into court thinking he was stepping into the spotlight to fight for justice, but what actually went down was a public disaster. I mean, what happens when a prince's legal team starts dropping like flies and his own wife is over 5,000 miles away, posting selfies like nothing is wrong? Oh, honey, that's where the real drama begins. The court session on January 22nd, 2026 wasn't just awkward, it was a full-blown train wreck. And let me tell you, it got uglier than anyone could have imagined.
Prince Harry nearly broke down in tears in court today, weeping about Meghan Markle's misery. And he was told to stop arguing back by the judge. Well, Prince Harry was giving evidence in his privacy claim against the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday in the High Court today.
Devastating moment for Prince Harry's reputation and credibility, as he argues with a judge while in the dock, contradicts himself, appears to fib about using the pseudonym Mr. Mischief.
This was supposed to be Harry's moment. He walked into London's High Court with the belief that this was finally his chance to set the record straight and take down the tabloids that have hounded him for years. He wasn't just up against the Daily Mail. Oh no, he was leading a battle with a $38 million price tag, suing the Associated Newspapers for phone tapping, hacking, and using illegal methods to invade his privacy. With 7 other big names in the mix, including Elton John and Elizabeth Hurley, this was going to be the royal showdown of the decade. But just when it seemed like Harry had finally found his righteous path, he fell flat on his face.
Prince Harry broke down in big boy tears as he gave some testimony today in his lawsuit against the Daily Mail, claiming that they have made his wife's life an absolute misery.
Prince Harry, right before we got on here, we also found out he's on the stand today in London. He's in court. I feel like every time we come on here, Prince Harry's in court. He doesn't look great in the court sketch, I'm going to be honest.
Well, as we all know, Prince Harry is in the UK. He is testifying around this case that he has against the Associated News.
Harry took the stand, thinking he could show the world the tabloids were the real villains. But instead, his testimony turned into a chaotic disaster. He wasn't just answering questions, he was arguing back, challenging the lawyer, getting visibly heated. The courtroom tension skyrocketed. The judge? He had to intervene. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Harry, a prince, arguing with the judge in his own courtroom. The drama was real, and it was escalating quickly.
Arrogant and pig-headed Harry started arguing with the judge. This was just part of their exchange.
Everything going on with Harry today, I feel like it's a need to talk about his big boy man tears. He's so emotional, guys. His poor wife, she lives in misery in her $16 million mansion with her 4.4 million followers on Instagram, her Netflix deal, her show on Netflix, all these sorts of things, and she's so miserable.
Prince Harry, you're crying on the stand. In life, we don't always get what we want, right? We want friends, okay? We've all been in that situation. We want a friend, a loved one, a relative to take accountability, to apologize. It doesn't happen, okay? You're expecting a big newspaper conglomerate to come crawling to you to apologize. It's not gonna happen. You can either move on with your life.
The judge, Justice Matthew Nicolin, a seasoned media law expert, tried to calm him down, but Harry wasn't hearing it. On the second interruption, you could feel the judge's patience wearing thin. By the 3rd time, it was clear Harry had crossed the line. The judge even had to shut him down with an authoritative tone, saying, "You don't need to argue your case today. That's what your lawyer's for." Imagine that Harry in the heart of his most important legal battle, arguing with the judge like he was in a public debate instead of a courtroom.
I think Harry reveals more than he thinks he did, because he's of course trying to pull out the heartstrings about his wife, who honestly, I feel like the judge should have told him straight to his face, your wife's feelings have no bearing on this trial whatsoever, Harry. This is about Chelsea, Cressida, your former girlfriend, you know? But he has to bring up his wife. I'm sure that's what his lawyer was doing, but I honestly have absolutely zero sympathy for him and his wife in this instance. If they had been quiet and dignified, would I have some more sympathy?
At that point, the cracks were starting to show. Harry was unraveling in front of everyone. And the fact that this wasn't a jury trial only made it worse. There were no cameras to impress, no crowds to woo. Just one person, the judge, who would decide whether Harry walked away victorious or humiliated. And let's just say, The prince didn't look like a winner. Legal analysts in the courtroom later said Harry seemed rattled, unsure, and completely out of his depth. Then came the real twist. The Daily Mail's legal team dropped a bombshell. The day before the court session, they shaved a day and a half off their opening arguments, cutting it down to just 90 minutes. This threw Harry off his game completely. The lack of prep was visible. The cracks were widening fast.
Harry's evidence came forward a day. So Harry originally wasn't meant to be giving evidence until tomorrow. Now, I think it scrambled him a bit. He seemed uneasy from the moment he arrived. He didn't really settle properly in the witness box, and he came in, and Anthony White very cleverly immediately got him onto this thing of being part of the institution lane, and right from the off, Harry was on the defensive and very bristly and very abrasive, and the judge intervened 3 times to try and calm him down. I mean, the first time, which was the one that you showed there, he was actually quite sympathetic, and he was quite like, look.
His voice cracked as he told the court how the tabloids had made his wife's life an absolute misery. He looked almost on the verge of tears. At first, it seemed like a heartfelt moment. But then, here's the thing. Harry's complaint is about hacking and illegal activity that allegedly happened between 2001 and 2013. But guess what? Meghan wasn't even in the picture then. They didn't meet until 2016. So why, pray tell, was Meghan suddenly front and center in his testimony? A royal mess. And guess who was nowhere to be found? Meghan herself, of course, was posting Instagram photos from Montecito while Harry was crumbling in court. The optics? Terrible. People were quick to notice the contrast. Why is he even talking about her? They asked. She has nothing to do with this case. And while Harry stood alone in the courtroom, looking like the weight of the world was crashing down on him, Meghan was living her best life on social media, miles away from the chaos. The hypocrisy didn't go unnoticed. And it got worse when Harry made a shocking claim. He started to complain about the media commercializing his life, saying, "I've never believed my life is open season to be commercialized by these people." Hello, Harry! This is the same guy who wrote a 400-page memoir, Spare, spilling all the tea about his family, his military service, his lost virginity, his past drug use, and his intimate conversations with Meghan. Not to mention the Netflix docuseries, the Oprah interview, and the constant media appearances. And now he's saying the media should leave him alone. The public wasn't buying it. One comment nailed it perfectly. If Harry wants privacy, he wouldn't have written Spare. And just like that, the court wasn't just about privacy anymore. It was about Harry's credibility, and people were starting to see through his act. The judge saw it. The lawyers saw it. The public saw it. Everyone but Harry. Okay, let's dive into the mess that was really spiraling fast. As Harry's courtroom drama unfolded, the cracks weren't just showing, they were breaking wide open. You think the story couldn't get any worse? Hold my drink, because it just did. Let's talk about Harry's own narrative and the unraveling of his so-called fight for justice. The moment Harry took the stand, he wanted to be seen as a warrior against the media, bravely taking on the people who've dragged his name through the mud for years. But what was supposed to be a legal triumph quickly started turning into a PR nightmare. A defense didn't even have to raise their voices to destroy his credibility. They just let his words and his contradictions speak for themselves. Harry's testimony was filled with emotional pleas. He talked about how much the media had tormented his life and made things difficult for Meghan. But here's the issue. Every time Harry got emotional, he was asked to back it up with evidence. Guess what? The emotional statements didn't hold up under legal scrutiny. The court soon turned into a minefield. Harry was hit with one uncomfortable question after another. And the defense didn't waste any time going for the jugular. They asked him about the many times he himself had played the media game, especially when it suited him. They threw his memoir Spare in his face. If you're really so upset about media intrusion, why write a whole book detailing your private life? They asked. Good question, right? Harry stammered but couldn't give a solid answer. The defense kept hammering home the point. If Harry was so disturbed by the press, why did he profit off sharing every intimate detail about his life, his family, and his struggles? The contrast was undeniable. The public could see it. The judge could see it. It was all starting to fall apart. And then things got even worse. The Daily Mail's legal team started digging up Harry's past, unearthing old dirt that Harry didn't expect to come back up. Remember Chelsea Davy? The one Harry dated before Meghan? Yeah, her name popped up in the courtroom. And not in a good way. Harry spoke about how the media had ruined Chelsea's life during their relationship. And suddenly, Chelsea was pulled right back into the mess. Imagine how that must have felt for her years of quiet, private life, only for her name to be dragged back into the circus. One comment summed it up perfectly. Chelsea should issue a cease and desist. And the more Harry talked about her, the more people started to question his motives. Was he using Chelsea's name to prop up his case? Or was this just a ploy to make it seem like the media was out to get him? People weren't sure, but the questions were piling up fast. Then, the bombshell. The Daily Mail's lawyers came after Harry with some juicy claims about a mysterious Mr. Mischief Facebook account. They suggested Harry had used this alias to reach out to journalists, including Charlotte Griffiths from Mail on Sunday. Harry denied it, but the lawyers claimed they had the receipts to prove it. And boom, another name in Harry's credibility coffin. The courtroom was buzzing with tension, and as each new twist emerged, the legal battle started looking less like a fight for justice and more like a slow public unraveling. Harry's legal team wasn't exactly helping either. Word spread fast that key members of his team were pulling away from the case. A legal analyst explained it in blunt terms. When lawyers start stepping back in the middle of a case, it's usually because they believe the evidence is crumbling or their client's version of events is unsustainable. That was a huge red flag. The cracks started showing in Harry's testimony. He couldn't prove who leaked what or how stories were sourced. The defense jumped on that immediately. It was clear Harry had nothing but his gut feelings, no solid proof to back up his claims. His emotional arguments didn't stand a chance against the cold, hard evidence laid out by the defense. And guess what? The judge was watching all of this unfold, taking in every moment, every slip-up, every inconsistency. As Harry's testimony started to fall apart, the defense started pressing him on the fact that some of the stories he was complaining about were already out in the public sphere. How? Because they were based on information from official sources, people Harry knew personally. That was a game changer. It wasn't about hacking anymore. It was about Harry's own circle of friends talking to the press, willingly giving up private details. The defense didn't even need to shout to make their point. They just let Harry's contradictions speak for themselves. And it kept getting worse for Harry. He kept coming back to how he felt about the media, but the court wasn't interested in feelings. They wanted facts, evidence, timelines, and Harry couldn't deliver on any of those. To make matters even worse, Harry's argument about being powerless to the media didn't hold up. This wasn't some ordinary guy fighting for his privacy. This was Prince Harry, one of the most recognized people on the planet. He had access, power, and influence in ways that ordinary people could only dream of. So, when Harry tried to play the victim, it didn't land well. People started to see the hypocrisy. How could someone with so much privilege claim to be powerless? And then, just when it seemed like it couldn't get any worse, a new angle appeared. The financial nightmare that was looming over Harry. If he lost this case, he wouldn't just be humiliated, he'd be on the hook for the Daily Mail's legal fees, which could run into tens of millions of pounds. On top of that, Harry was already reportedly in massive debt around $38 million from previous legal battles. This lawsuit was supposed to be his way out, his big payday to fix everything. But instead, it was spiraling into a financial and personal disaster. People were starting to ask, was this case really about seeking justice, or was it about making a statement? Did Harry genuinely care about holding the media accountable, or was this just another publicity stunt to salvage his image? Public opinion was shifting fast. The courtroom drama had turned into a slow-motion car crash, and everyone was watching. Harry, once seen as the rebellious prince taking on the system, now looked like a man caught in his own contradictions, fighting a losing battle on every front. The cracks in his story were becoming undeniable, and the public couldn't ignore it any longer. By the end of the day, Harry's grand showdown with the media didn't look like a victory, it looked like a disaster. The world was watching, and the cracks were no longer hidden. Harry's story of justice was now a story of hypocrisy, confusion, and a man unraveling in real time. The case? It was far from over, but the damage? That was already done. And here's the thing, if Harry loses this battle, it won't just be a loss in the courtroom. It could cost him everything. The public image, the money, the credibility, all of it hanging in the balance. So what happens now? Will Harry rise from this disaster? Or has he just dug his own grave? Let's see how this saga ends. But from where we're standing, it's not looking good for the prince.